Yo. Gonna do a quick video because I'm a little over a month into learning Hungarian. And sometimes when I talk to people, they say, Hungarian, isn't that one of the most difficult language for foreigners to learn? Yes, Stacy, it is. And I'd just like to show you why that is and why a typical week or a typical lesson learning this language can be a real uphill battle because it might not seem like it would be that difficult. Um, you know, hey, I know these letters. I could probably learn how to pronounce this stuff and learn what it all means. How hard could it be? Plus, it's a language in like right in the middle of Europe, European language. Not as hard as like Chinese or something like that. I don't know how hard Chinese is. I've never tried to learn it. But I do know that this language is pretty tough, and it's tough because you can learn the words, the nouns, and you can learn the verbs. You can learn some of the rules, but when it comes to actually taking the words you've learned and putting them into a sentence that makes any sense and communicate what you want to communicate, it can be very, very difficult. So, why do people say Hungarian is difficult? They typically say this: distinct cases, many distinct cases, which present themselves as endings that can go on to the end of words that you know that make them mean different things. So to go into something, to be with something, you tack vol or vel onto the end of a word and it means with that thing. And I'll show you how this kind of presents itself again in a typical week, going through a typical lesson. Just a quick cultural note though, some people maybe think that Hungarian is Slavic or Germanic or it's related to anything. You can see here it really isn't. It has its roots way out here with this kind of people group that came through many, many years ago and settled in this area. And then it just kind of isolated and hung out here for many years. And now we have modern Hungarian. Its closest cousins are up here in the Baltic kind of states. Estonian and then Finland, I think, is the next closest. But there's very little overlap. There's like 5% or less overlap. So a Hungarian person and a Finnish person cannot understand each other if they were to speak. But a typical lesson in the book, let me show you how this goes. A városban means in the town. So you can see here by the pictures, at the cafe with perhaps Stacy, one of these maybe is Stacy, we don't know. At the pool, in the church, at the cultural site, whatever. So you're going to learn how to get around the town. What time is it? Don't miss the train. Don't want to miss that train. Where are you in the town? Places in the town. How to get around town, modes of transportation, directions. And then at the end, maybe, if you're an astute observer and an intelligent person, maybe, just maybe by the end of the chapter, you can converse and say, towns and villages. In Barcelona, there are many good restaurants, or food does not have a movie theater. So you can just kind of chat with people about towns, tell them how to get around, maybe, if you're lucky. Let me show you why that's difficult. Times, here we go, taking you through some time stuff. Don't miss the train. What time's the show start? That sort of thing. Days of the week, yesterday, today, tomorrow, not a big deal. Here we go. Vocab, 16 words with pictures. Love pictures. The cafe, the theater, the market, the library, like such as. Here's a couple more. The school, the university, the disco, baby. So right off the bat, you're served up 35 or so vocab words. Great. I can point to things and identify them. Good start. Here's some verbs. Menni, to go, basically. To go to, jönni, to come from, and then not pictured here is to be, like to be currently at, which is a verb I already learned, but the conjugation is for those. You got nouns, you got verbs. Let's go. Well, let's not. Let's pump the breaks, because if you remember, these endings now start coming into play, and in order to use any of those words you just memorized, you have to learn all these different endings to actually put them in a sentence. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so what do we say? Many, right? Going to somewhere, being at somewhere. Lenny, and then coming from somewhere. Yönni. Here's the endings you have to use on the places that you are either going to, at, or coming from. So if you are going to the restaurant, étterem be goes on the end of étterem. To the restaurant. If you're there, it's ben. If you're in the restaurant, then you use ben, and if you're coming from the restaurant, you use bu. Not too bad, not too bad. Quick one-syllable endings you just throw on the end of the words you've already learned, and you're either going to there or coming from. How hard could that really be? Well, in fact, it could be very difficult. In fact, much more difficult than maybe you're thinking, because épület means building. Háromdimenziós tárgy means three-dimensional object. So these are the endings you use if the thing that you're talking about is something that you can be inside of. So you can be inside of a library, a pool, a school, or a restaurant. Not talking about locations around town. This is bag. This is printer. So the paper is in the printer. This whatever is in the bag, and then places like continents, countries, and towns. If the thing you're describing, so you can see the bucket illustration here. If the thing that you're describing going to, at, or coming from is not three-dimensional, or if it's something you can be on, then you use different endings that you have to memorize and pair up correctly with the right words. So if it's piac, which is a market, which is an open air kind of thing, not something you can be inside, then you use these endings. If it's a concert, like this means play, like a presentation. You're not in the play. You wouldn't want to tell somebody that. You're at the play. And if it's something you can be on, like a chair, like a chair or a desk, then you would use these endings. Okay, so already you're starting to form this grid in your head. You're like, okay, so you're trying to, so let's recall the word, piac, market. Okay, market. That's not a three-dimensional thing. That would be in these endings, and I'm going to it. So that's a ra. So piac ra, to the market, magic, I go. Okay, got it. Well, that's not it. If the place that you're describing is identified with a person, like Peter, or my girlfriend, barátnőm, orvos, doctor, then you use completely different endings. Hoz, nal, and tol. Just gonna be silent for a second and let this kind of stew. Yeah, and actually, no, I won't. These endings, if you want to use a pronoun, like my place, my nal, your nal, then these endings become the words themselves, and they get their own endings. So hoz, nal, and tol becomes hoz, nal, and tol, or tu, and then they get possessive endings. Mine, ad, yours, his or hers, and you get all these different new words. Fun stuff, all just to say basically where you are or where you're going in a town after you've learned all these new words. So that is what makes this a bit tedious, and why it's not as simple as just learning the words and learning the verbs, why people say this. These cases, these endings, make a typical week learning things in this language a very steep uphill battle. And then lastly, the word order itself. the last couple pages in every chapter are just dedicated to how to then take those words and the endings you've learned and form a sentence. Because Thomas goes to the library means something different than Thomas to the library goes in Hungarian. It communicates something different. It's answering a different question. If you're saying this in response to the question, who's going to the library? Where does Thomas go? You would phrase it differently and order them in different ways. And that is kind of the last punch to the face as you're going through a week of learning this language, when you've learned like 100 new words and new concepts and struggled to listen to other people speak and struggled to read. And at the end of the week, your teacher asks like a basic little baby question, like, where are you going tomorrow? And you're just like, you know, and you just like, okay, what's the word? Is it a 3D place? Is it a not? I'm going, so that's the ba or the ra. Magic. Okay. And then it takes you 15 seconds to just answer a simple question. That is, for my money, what makes Hungarian very, very difficult and a little, if I get to be honest, a little demoralizing when you get to the end of the week and you don't even know how to say anything. That's what's up. And if all that wasn't enough, let me hit you with this. The Hungarian keyboard is basically just like our keyboard, except the Y and the Z keys are different. They're switched. So, yeah, I don't know why I threw that in here at the end. I think it's just like the last little thing of every week that like I'm just cruising, I'm trying to get through it, and then, oh yeah, you wanted to type library? Yeah, no, you don't, dude. You want to type something different. You want to say you're going to go somewhere? Yeah, that's not what you're going to say. You're going to say this. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I know I sure have. Maybe I'll make more of these. Who knows?